Hello, it's Talking Reds. It's Tuesday's Talking Reds. I'm John Gibbons. This is Craig Hannan, and we're here in the lovely surroundings of James Place on Catherine Street in Liverpool. Why we're here? Well, more on that to come. But in the meantime, we're going to bring you all your Liverpool news today. And there's been a lot of interviews done over the last 24 hours with Liverpool players that we're going to sort of round up a little bit in this first section, in particular our midfield. Naby Keita is the first one I want to talk about, Craig. He's obviously settled a little bit slower than maybe some of us were hoped. I think, you know, it was such a protracted signing, wasn't it? It was such a long-winded thing. You know, we knew we were getting him a long time before we did. You know, there was a bit of talk we might get him in January, and that didn't happen. So I think we were all a bit kind of so keen to see what he had. It's not quite happened for him, but it's interesting, this interview he's talking about how he's determined to learn English. He's doing classes and he set himself a target of 6 months' time. He wants to be able to do interviews in English and things like that. And it's stuff like that you forget, really, isn't it, when you think, I was just going to come here and be brilliant. If he's struggling to communicate with his teammates and with the manager quite how he'd like to, and obviously settle in the area and things like that, then maybe that's affecting his football a little bit. And maybe, you know, with the other midfielders playing so well, you know, we can't afford to be a little bit patient with him.
I think the other midfielders playing so well affords us that, and that's brilliant. I think as football fans, we're very impatient, aren't we? Like, whenever we sign someone, especially because considering that we have waited so long for him, we've been so excited about him, and he's been built up, and then like I think we saw glimpses of what he can do. Like in the first two games, he's pivotal in the first Liverpool goal. Obviously the turn at Palace and the ball over for Salah, and that sort of like whet our appetite of what we were hoping would to come from Naby Keita. And it's going to take a little bit of time. He's a young lad, and that's the thing. He's a young lad in this foreign city. He can't speak the language. What you said there, if he can't speak to his teammates, it's very, very difficult. If he can only speak to Sadio Mane, and maybe if a couple of the other lads know French or whatever, then, you know, it's just going to take him time. And I know in one of Glenn Price's pieces, he wrote about how Naby Keita was in this house. He didn't know anyone. He moved to England, and he didn't really know what to do with his spare time. And when you hear things like that, that's something that we don't think of as fans. We don't think of that. We just see, you know, on the training pitch and on the on the pitch, and we just want him to sort of to click straight away. And I don't think there's any doubting his ability. And we've, like I said, we've seen little bits of that. It's going to take time, and you know, the fact that we aren't reliant on him to just, you know, we don't have to be reliant on him to just like hit the ground running straight away, because we have so many options in the midfield. I think that's a big positive. Yeah, I mean,
it's you right, Craig, and you're right to think about, you know, this idea of, you know, of learning and stuff like that. I mean, imagine how much you wouldn't have been able to learn from me at the Anfield Wrap if we had the kind of the language situation. You know, how blessed you are.
Oh, how blessed I am.
But on a serious note, though, he's talked about the scouts thing as well, and that's like another thing to throw in as well. It's not just the fact that you're trying to learn English, but then you go to the shops, and I think he lives in Formby, so it's a bit posher. But the fact that, you know, when the supporters maybe are trying to speak to you, like, I don't even know these words he's saying.
I don't, but like, well, that's the thing. It's like it's difficult enough to move to a new city when you don't know the surroundings and you don't know anyone in the city without not knowing the language. Yeah. And that's like, I can't even imagine what that's like, and that it just will take, it'll take months. And like, you know, in 6 months' time, it just wouldn't surprise me if we're talking about how Naby Keita is lighting up the Premier League and he's illuminating this team, and he's one of our most exciting players, and blah blah. That won't surprise me one bit. But these things are going to take time, and you know, the fact that he's talking in the way he is, whereby, you know, he's really keen to learn English, he's really keen to be able to talk to the manager about what the manager wants from him, because that must be difficult as well. Yeah. Like if Jurgen Klopp's angry at half time and he's trying to get his point across to a team full of people who are from different nationalities, speak different languages, and a couple of the new signings don't know English. Must be very difficult to sort of get the tactics, and that's something that we just, like, again, we don't think about. So the fact that he's so keen to and so driven to be doing this, and he says in 6 months he wants to be doing the interviews, that's great.
Yeah, we mentioned the midfield playing well before. In particular, Wijnaldum's been one of the stars of the season so far. He's done an interview over the last day or so with the PFA where he's talked a lot about his role at Liverpool, in particular his change in midfield role, and the fact that he's moved from what was a 10 at Newcastle to more of an 8 and now a 6, if you like. So he's moving further back, and he talked about the fact that basically your versatility at Liverpool is why you play so many games. And so if you've only got one position, then obviously you're going to be rotated in and out a little bit more, and you've got competition for places in that place. And if someone's playing well, you're not going to get in. Whereas, he said, I can play more often if I can play more different roles, and so I've been determined to learn them. I've enjoyed kind of doing the kind of different things, and I've enjoyed contributing to the team. And I think, look, when we signed him, I never thought he was going to be a defensive midfielder, but he's done brilliant in that role.
He has. I remember us doing the gutter when it had just been announced that Wijnaldum had signed, and it seems to be a theme with a few Klopp signings. We were all a bit like, all right, well, we don't know what we're getting. We think we're getting this sort of left wide attacking midfielder, and he came in, and he seems to have just moved back, and I think Klopp, when he's signing these players, he seems to look at what they, their attributes and where he thinks or what he can mould them into, rather than just going, right, so he played left midfield or left attacking midfield for Newcastle, so that's where we're going to play him. And I like the idea that Wijnaldum's he's looked at, he's known that we were signing Keita for a year. He saw us sign Fabinho straight after the Champions League final, and he's gone, now I'm going to make sure I'm in this midfield by hook or by crook. And I think he's been brilliant this season, and I think there's more to come from Wijnaldum. And you think of you say when he was at Newcastle, he scored a few goals, and then he got a few goals in our first season as well, didn't he? Quite a few big ones, Chelsea, City, and so on. So I don't think we saw that quite as much in the first half of last season. I don't think we were seeing enough from him the first half of last season, and then through the Champions League run, he sort of he showed his quality and showed his worth for this team, and I think there's still more to come from him.
Some really nice quotes about his expectations moving forward as well, and what he wants from this Liverpool team. He said, "You want to look back and feel you were part of Liverpool's great history. Win something here, and they will always remember you." And what I like about quotes like that is that in the past you felt like some of the players have felt the weight of the shirt at Liverpool, and you walk into Melwood and the European Cups there, the one that they wanted to keep for the 5th time. There's you drive to Anfield, and there's you through Shankly Gates, and there's a Kenny Dalglish stand, and Liverpool's history is everywhere, and that can inspire you, but it can also be daunting. You also think, well, these fellas have won all this stuff, and we haven't kind of necessarily done anything yet. But what I like about not just Genie's comments there, but there's been similar comments made by other players, is that they feel almost like it's our turn to kind of write the chapter of our story really in Liverpool Football Club's kind of great history, and that's nice to hear because they are ready to take the next step.
Definitely, that's I think that's Jurgen Klopp though. I think that's from the minute he walked in the door when he said doubters to believers, and the way he sort of, we've seen a shift in mentality both on the pitch and off the pitch in terms of how the fans are, how the players are, and how the players talk. And Van Dijk's similar. He's quite a few times he's come out and said, we want to win the Premier League. And Trent Alexander-Arnold, when we interviewed him last year before the Man City first leg, he was like, no, we're in it, so we want to win the Champions League. And that's coming from a young 18, 19-year-old. And I think that feeds into what Jurgen Klopp's been doing with this team. And yeah, I always think back. I was listening to the Make Us Dream audiobook podcast that you did, and you said at the start when Kolo Touré came in, and Kolo Touré was sort of seen as a bit of a joke figure, but he comes in his first interview, he says, well, this team can win the Premier League, and everyone sort of laughs at him. But the idea that that Kolo Touré was in the dressing room saying, I've won the Premier League, and I know that this team's good enough to win it, and they don't, but they come so close. And I think you need characters like that, big characters, to come in and sort of inspire you, and Jurgen Klopp's the one that's making them believe that they can do it, and why shouldn't they, the way they're playing?
Why shouldn't they indeed? We're going to talk more about Liverpool in a second, but in the meantime, we are here in James Place, as I mentioned at the start, so we're going to have a little bit of a chat to the guys from James Place about the fantastic work they do here. And now we welcome Dan from James Place, who works here along with Jane, who was on the free show, the Weekender show on Friday, you'll have heard. And there's Monty the dog about as well, who might make an audio appearance at some point.
Yes.
But
an angry appearance. He's been quite angry recently.
I mean, he's
sounds like he's calmed down though, so maybe he can come in. Maybe he's ready to enter.
He's been hot and cold with us, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, he's just excited. He can't handle the emotions.
Thanks for welcoming us down today. It's a lovely space. It's the first time I've been here, and it's great that it exists here in Liverpool, and it's great that it's such a kind of welcoming space. Can you tell us a little bit more about why James Place was set up and the work you do here?
Yeah, so James Place was set up because there's James Wentworth Stanley was a young man. He was 21, and he killed himself about 10 years ago. And before that happened, he cropped up to his GP, and his GP referred him to A&E, and he was waiting there for about 4 hours before he kind of got off because he wasn't treated as a serious case. And what the charity's been created is to kind of be there for if that happens again. Because at the moment when you go to A&E and you've got some maybe suicidal thoughts, it's very extreme. You either get admitted to an inpatient unit or you go on a waiting list for about 6 months. Mm-hmm. So then that can be quite risky and quite dangerous. So we're here to kind of to be that intermediate place where someone can come in. They don't need to get admitted to an inpatient unit, but they can come here, they can talk to a therapist, or they can talk to whoever, and they have a bit of a person-centered approach to help them through that suicidal crisis. So that's kind of, it's to fill that gap, and also it would have been here for someone like James in that situation.
Yeah, and we've talked about, obviously we're doing this gig talk tonight, which is to young Liverpool fans who took their own lives, and what we've discussed is that obviously we can't bring them back, unfortunately, but what we can all try and do, both as people, individuals in the city, but all, to our friends, can maybe make sure that something like that doesn't happen again to someone we're all close to, and that's what this charity's all about, isn't it?
And you know what, when this was opened and Claire, James's mother, was here, although it was such a horrible thing that happened, it really felt like when we had the opening here with Prince William and everything, it felt like such a positive manifestation of something so horrible. Yeah. But I thought it was really inspirational to see the kind of positive things that she was doing as a result of that to make a positive difference, which she's now doing. And it's been 10 years in the making. She's been through so much to kind of get to this point, but it feels like that. It's amazing when people use that kind of tragedy to go and do something positive with it to help people. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah, and what's really impressive about here is the kind of, obviously, it's the personal touch. It's the fact you feel relaxed when you come here. It's that everyone's so friendly and kind of non-judgmental, if you like. And obviously there's lots of great charities like the Samaritans and Calm. We've got phone lines and stuff like that. But ringing up a stranger kind of isn't for everyone. For some people to be able to come to somewhere like here and open up and speak about the problems, it's fantastic.
Exactly, and that's what we want. We kind of want to kind of make it as comfortable as possible, and we want to make it non-medical. Yeah. Because at the moment you go to somewhere like A&E or you go to quite a clinical environment, and it's all about disorders and medication. And the difference with here is they can come here and they can get a human approach. Yeah. And a big part of what we do is we kind of normalise, which is kind of a funny word for something that's normal, but a lot of the guys coming through here are struggling with things that they don't realise a lot of guys are struggling with, but they think they're the only people in the world that have got them kind of difficulties. So it's about having a human response and helping that person just realise that actually they're going through something very human.
So James Place are one of the benefactors of the Talk Tonight gig, which is being organised a week Friday by a group of Liverpool fans. The Anfield Rap are happy to promote it. It's not an Anfield Rap night, it's not a boss night, it's a lot of different Liverpool fans who want to get together in memory of two young Liverpool fans who took their life, but also to raise awareness for organisations like James Place and Paul's Place that are out there to help people and to help people who might be struggling with issues related to suicide. So it's going to be a brilliant night. The lineup is absolutely incredible. Louis Berry headlining, but loads of brilliant Liverpool acts who are on the bill as well. I'll be comparing on the night, just making sure everyone gets on the stage on time, I think. But yeah, it's going to be a fantastic night, and the charities are going to be there on the night as well to speak to anyone who wishes to learn more about what they do, but also to kind of raise awareness of them. But if anyone's watching who maybe can't get down on the night but is interested in accessing your services or is interested in referring someone else onto yourselves, Dan, what should they do?
Yeah, so obviously anyone can kind of be referred to us, and we're sort of in communication with the mental health teams, the A&E crisis teams. We're in contact with GPs and universities, so people should be able to get referred to us through other means.
Yeah.
But if people actually want to phone up for some advice and speak to one of ourselves, they are welcome to do that. They can go on our website, or they can ring our number and we can speak to them, and we can sort of, even if maybe James's place isn't the right place, we can sort of put them in the right direction, or else we can potentially take the referral over the phone directly.
Great. We'll do support the gig, or if you can't, just start opening up to your friends more, and I think that's what we're all trying to encourage with everything that we're trying to do. But yeah, thanks to Dan for joining us, and
pleasure.
Back to the footy. Thanks to that. Now back with Craig. I want to talk a little bit about Graeme Souness, who was on. He was on Sky Sports last night. He was doing Monday Night Football with Carragher. I know Carragher really enjoyed it. He's a strong talker, Souness, and I'm interested to get your perspective of what he means to kind of fans, kind of your generation, really, Craig. We're different sorts of generations, unfortunately for me, and he's a very complicated figure in Liverpool Football Club history because of everything that's gone on. So for people my dad's age, they say he's one of the best players, if not the best they ever saw. Right up there with Kenny and Gerrard and players like that. Instrumental in so much of Liverpool's success when he was there, driving force, could do everything, leader. They can't speak highly enough of him. Then there was obviously the managerial reign, which went badly, and he talked about last night, and then not just that, but his issues when he was ill and selling a story to the Sun, which is obviously a real no-go in Liverpool when he was in hospital. But then since then he's gone off and managed in a few other places, done okay, and now he's obviously kind of doing TV work, but he'll always be kind of a very complex character and someone who divides opinion in Liverpool. But for someone who sort of missed all that, really, I wonder where, I can't expect you to speak for the whole of the under-30s kind of, Liverpool supporter base, but when you think of Souness, kind of what do you think of?
It's difficult because you hear older generations talk about him, and they're talking about him in the same breath as Steven Gerrard, and for there's probably two generations there that can never really understand it. You can watch all the videos and the goals and the big tackles and you can read all about him, but you'll never, because you're not experiencing it at the time, you'll never really understand just how good he was. I think, and I think you're right in terms of how complex he is, because I remember as a kid watching the official history DVDs or tapes or whatever, and it going through, and I remember watching the soonest years of him being a manager, and obviously the interview and the anniversary of Hillsborough and things like that. It just means that you don't, whereby someone like Dalglish, if you talk to the older generation now about Kenny Dalglish, and it's all so positive, for Souness it's everything's sort of tainted. Do you know what I mean by that? When you talk to them, it's he was an unbelievable player, and he won this and he won that, and but his managerial reign at Liverpool was dreadful, and obviously with the Sun interview as well. So yeah, for us we see this kind of angry man as that's on Sky as a pundit, and sometimes he says great things, and sometimes you're the Pogba thing, where he continues to talk about Pogba. It's boring to me. So yeah, it's a very complex. I actually don't know my feelings on him, really. Yeah. Like I said, you could just watch all the goals and think, oh, it's brilliant, and see him lifting European Cups.
Or throwing them. Just that brilliant one when he throws it, which I absolutely love.
And just loads of the gnarly things he did as well, and that picture where they're walking out in Rome, and you see the stadium, and you see him just walking out, and he's just he's just ready. He's and you're looking at that, and at times through my Liverpool supporting career, looking at that picture and thinking, what would you do for a player like that in your midfield now? Someone like that, he just relishes and revels in big games like that, and just isn't scared of anyone or anything. But yeah, it's all tainted, I think.
Yeah, it is, unfortunately, and he'll always have to kind of live with that, really, and he touches on that in the interview. There's some clips on Sky Sports on their social media, so do have a look if you are interested, kind of wherever you are in the world, on Souness's views on himself, his reign, but also a few of the mistakes that he thinks he made when he was a manager. It's interesting stuff, and he is part of our history, so it's interesting to learn from that. Just looking forward for Anfield wrap stuff, really. Obviously, there's Champions League game this week, which we're all really excited about. We've recorded it Under the Lights show, which went out last night, which is our preview of the Champions League game. It's mainly us chocolate at what odds Red Belgrade are at the moment, to be honest with you, but look out for that. It's really good fun, and it was a really good gang of people who join me on that, so that was great. And then there'll be, obviously, around the match today, we're the best place to share the experience if you're not able to go. So across all our social media, across all our YouTube channel, and obviously our audio content, we'll be previewing, reviewing straight after the game and bringing you all the action as close as we can to it. So yeah, get involved. It's a great time to subscribe to the Anfield Wrap. Anything else?
Just the live show this weekend. We're doing a live show On Air at Kane's Brewery in Liverpool from 12 to 2, so it'll just be before the Liverpool-Cardiff game. There's still tickets for that, £7 on ctickets.com or theanfieldwrap.com/tall live. You'll be able to get them as well.
Yeah, not to be confused obviously with the Talk Tonight gig, which is going, which is the Friday after that as well. But in terms of our gig On Air as well, all the money that we get from ticket sales will be going to Mick Woodburn's family to kind of help out with the cost of getting him back, and also the funeral as well. So we're trying to help out best we can. But yeah, thanks to Craig and obviously for James Place for inviting us down today. And yeah, up the Reds.